Welcome to our community. Susie Thomas with you this morning. Very happy to welcome Michelle Lucas. She is from Harcaucus, which would be Harrison, Carroll, and Tuscarawas counties, the Tri-County area, all working together on many, many things. We're going to find out what she's got to talk about in just a moment. Good morning, Michelle.
Good morning.
Thanks so much for joining us. So, first of all, this whole idea of Harrison, Carroll, and Tuscarawas counties joining together in multiple efforts. Can you give us an overview?
Well, basically, Harcaucus is one of many multi-county community action agencies in the state of Ohio. There are several that are only singular county agencies, but we're all under the umbrella of community action.
And community action having to do today that we're talking about is home energy assistance, yes?
Yes. That is the program that I am probably the most well-versed in. I have been with this program since its inception in the early 1980s, and it's undergone some growth, some changes, but essentially it has remained at its core a program that at the state level is designed to relieve people during the winter heating months of a little bit of the burden that they seem to experience when they have a lower income and less money to be able to pay on their home heating expenses.
Do you help with cooling as well, or are we mostly focused on heating during the winter months?
We also have a cooling component, which is called the Home Energy Assistance Program Summer Crisis Program. That program began July 1st, and this year, because of the pandemic, is going to run through the end of September. So we'll be providing services until September 30th.
Well, you said the word pandemic. I think we're all kind of experiencing something different this summer than we're used to. Thinking of those people who particularly have lost income and are still trying to beat the heat. And wouldn't you know it, we'd end up with this scorcher of a summer. So in what ways are we able to help them?
Well, folks who would first qualify by income, that is the most important thing, and we'll touch on that a little bit more later on. But the secondary thing is this summer, the state has decided that we will also add a new layer to the eligibility. First off, we need to make sure that we are ensuring that those who are 60 years of age and older, or in households with someone who is 60 years of age or older, households which have someone who has a medical condition which really needs to have air conditioning. Mm-hmm. It's very, very detrimental to their health to be exposed to this kind of heat. And then we also have those who have been diagnosed with COVID-19. But in addition to that, we are looking at those who have lost income or are experiencing some unusual situations this summer because of the pandemic. If they qualify by income and they have a disconnection notice on their bill, we may be able to help them. But those who have the older person, someone with a medical condition or COVID-19, don't need to have that disconnection notice.
Oh, they can just call and say, we've got this situation.
We would like for them to call us before they try to make a payment on the bill. Mm-hmm. Because what we can do is we can use as much money as we have available for their particular situation to pay on a current unpaid electric bill.
So do you wait until it's gone unpaid, until it's past due before you make the call? No, okay. All right, help me understand, because that doesn't seem like something you'd want to do.
No. In fact, we've got situations right now because of the pandemic
Yeah.
where the utility companies have not been sending out disconnection notices, which they are going to be changing very quickly and very soon.
Oh, dear.
But if an individual qualifies by income, has someone who's 60 years of age or older, someone who has a medical condition in their home, and they would like us to help with that one electric bill,
Okay.
we will do our darndest to be able to pay that bill and make this a little bit easier for them.
Gives them a bit of a grace period. At least it gets them past one.
Yes.
What number would that be, Michelle?
Well, we have a toll-free number to call in and schedule a telephone interview. Our lobbies still are closed to the public, so everything that we're doing is no contact. And the number that they would need to call to schedule an appointment with Harkadus is 1-855-806-9650.
Okay, we'll
Now,
give that one
there
more time.
is
It's 1-855-806-9650. Do I have that right?
correct.
Okay.
Correct. Now, there is a number for those who may be in the listening area that are outside of Harrison, Carroll, or Tuscarawas counties who would be interested. I can almost guarantee that they are living in an area that has a community action agency that can be identified by calling the statewide toll-free number. And that number is 1-800-282-0880.
Okay, 1-800-282-0880 is the statewide number if your county is not Harrison, Carroll, or Tuscarawas, but there's probably a similar program. I'm
Correct.
imagining that you're getting requests from people who are not accustomed to asking for help. Is that right?
Oh, it's very, very correct. Simply because we are living in unusual times right now. We are experiencing a warmer than usual summer, and people are stressed out. They need to be able to stay cool in their homes, and we want them to be able to maintain at least that level of comfort. So what I am doing is I'm also reaching out to those who may have a neighbor, an older relative, somebody in their family. This doesn't necessarily have to apply to them, but I'm sure they know someone that it could be helpful.
So anyone can call? They can call on behalf of someone, or they should share this information with that person who needs help?
We would appreciate it if they would share the information with the individual, because when that phone call is made to schedule the appointment, it's important that we're speaking with a representative of the household that will receive the assistance.
Where does this money come from that you have at your disposal to be able to disperse it to people in need?
This is a federal grant that is handed down to the states and has been, like I said, since the early 1980s. How each state uses the money is a little different and has historically been voted as one of the important grants that the federal government needs to continue to support, simply because the utility companies are not going to allow people not to pay their bills and continue to have service. And we have people who are in situations where something's got to give. They're either going to pay their rent or mortgage, utilities, or maybe even their medications, or something is not going to be paid. And it becomes problematic because then we're sacrificing what everyone would consider to be a normal lifestyle.
Yeah. One silver lining of going through this is I think it is making rise to the top all these amazing services that so many of us maybe were not aware that they existed. When you talk about how many years you've been helping people, I bet most have not heard of this kind of assistance because we don't know what we don't know if you've never needed it before. But this COVID has really brought things to attention, don't you think? It's kind of shined a light on some things, wonderful services that we didn't know about before.
Well, and the thing is, so many times I know when I used to read the newspaper every day, there were certain things I really didn't pay much attention to because it didn't apply to me. Sure. So I would focus my attention on the articles that were of interest to me personally. Mm-hmm. And once I started writing those news articles, I found that I was being very, very careful with what I was reading and what I was listening to on the radio, what I was looking for in terms of news that may not have applied directly to me, but would apply to the people that we're dealing with, that we could make better referrals, that we could assist them with more than just that intake and reach out into the community if additional assistance was required.
Now, in a normal world, you would be serving folks with a lower income. You want to talk about what you normally do if this were just all behind us now and things went back to the way they usually were?
Well, the Summer Crisis Program would only run normally during the months of July and August. Mm-hmm. So we've got that extra month in September to try to capture those folks who are going to start getting disconnect notices, who are going to be directly threatened with the loss of their electricity.
My goodness.
And in a normal world, we're always going to be looking for folks who typically have the lower income. For example, if there's only one person in a household, they're living all by themselves, the limit would be $1,861. Now, if you have a typical household with 2 people, 2 adults, 2 children, 4 people, they can earn up to $3,821 a month. Mm-hmm. And this is all over the state of Ohio. It's the same amount of money, and it's the same level of assistance when we're talking about State HEAP, which is one program, when we're talking about Summer Crisis, which is another program, and then when we speak about Winter Crisis, which we'll be dealing with this fall, because that will begin in November, that's another program. And then we have a third or a fourth program, which is called the Percent of Income Payment Plan, which is not actually something that we make a payment on, but we can assist people with getting on these programs as a result of the level of their income.
I know on our utilities, there's usually a little place to check that if you're willing to pay an extra $1 or $2, that it goes into a fund to help people who can't afford otherwise to be able to heat their homes in the wintertime. Does that have anything to do with you, or is that something the utility companies are doing on their own?
That is an independent program managed by each utility company, but surprisingly, it does directly affect us as an agency, or, those agencies like, Community Actions throughout the state of Ohio, in that many of those programs we can deal with and, if necessary, access right during the intake that we're doing for HEAP. So if there's additional assistance through an AEP program, we can bring that up on our computer without even having to make another referral, have them go through another intake and speak with another individual, which for some people, that's just pushing them way too far. They are not going to have that patience, determination, and sometimes fortitude that it takes to get through telling one more person my story when it was embarrassing enough to have to admit it to you.
Yes.
So oftentimes we're able to access many of these utility-sponsored programs when what we have just isn't enough.
Mm-hmm. We're speaking with Michelle Lucas from Harketus, talking about home energy assistance. We'll be back after these words. Welcome back to Our Community. Susie Thomas visiting with Michelle Lucas from Harketus, talking about home energy assistance. Bottom line from our first half of the program is if you're struggling because of the coronavirus and you happen to receive a letter that your air conditioning is going to be turned off, there's no reason to panic. There's help and there's assistance. Also, if someone's 60 years old or older is residing with you, or if someone who has a physical condition that makes them susceptible to the virus, they automatically, you don't have to wait for that letter, right? You get the assistance. Did I understand all of that correctly?
Well, we have to go through an intake process, unfortunately.
Okay.
Every year, we have individuals, usually older folks, who don't understand why they have to reapply, re-verify their income. I've been on Social Security for the past 10 years. It hasn't changed. I still have AEP for my electric company. Mm-hmm. That's never changed. Why do I have to tell you the same thing? Well, yeah. I didn't make up the rules.
Yeah, okay. We won't blame you, Michelle.
Okay, yeah. Good. But every year, there's a little bit of a difference as to how much assistance can be provided depending upon what program we're going to help you access. So if you've been all by yourself applying for the Home Energy Assistance Program, you've picked up an application at a local library or senior center and you've always just sent it in yourself. Believe it or not, those applications are now back to being processed locally through community action. It's been years since we've done that. It moved to the state level because it was easier to just do it by computer at the state level. Well, they've decided that we're going to move that back into the laps of the local folks. So while we're doing that, though, if we see someone's utility account, usually what sets the signals off is that they have a disconnection notice. Mm-hmm. During the summer, we don't want to see that for electric. And during the winter, it could be gas or it could be electric. Yeah. In the rural areas, we have a lot of people that heat with what we call a bulk fuel. Mm-hmm. And that can be propane or fuel oil. Some folks still even coal or wood.
Sure.
Believe it or not. So, the important thing is that we're able to give it that one little last look locally with a little bit more of a human eye instead of just data entry.
Yes.
And recognize that, oh my goodness, there's Mary, and maybe we need to get a hold of Mary because last year she could use the help, but she waited too long. Mm-hmm. And the program was over before we found out. So this year we're going to call Mary and we're going to say, please, we'd like for you to call this toll-free number and go ahead and schedule an appointment, and we will call you back in a few weeks, and we're going to get this set up. We can't do it right now, but we will be able to down the road.
Awesome.
It's a little...
Yeah, it's more a personal.
Little more
the personal
human.
touch. It is more human.
Yes.
And if you live in Harrison, Carroll, or Tuscarawas counties, that number is 1-855-806-9650. If you live in any other country but in our listening area, call this number, 1-800-282-0880, and they will direct you to the right place so that you can get assistance as well. So far, we've only covered being cool. We have 3 more programs to talk about. Tell me about HEAP. What is that?
Well, the Home Energy Assistance Program pretty much runs all year round.
Okay.
There's a little switch that gets, turned. And this year they finally determined that that was going to be, I believe, during the month of June, so that they could reset the computers and recalculate things, because starting July 1st, our income guidelines for the Home Energy Assistance Program and anything related to it do change.
Mm-hmm.
Now, those normally would change with a calendar year, but we don't want to do that in the middle of winter crisis. So they flipped that switch for July the 1st, reset everything, and then those people who are only applying for the state assistance, and that's a little bit of help, a percentage of what your normal monthly heating bill would be in the dead of winter, not the whole thing, but a percentage of it, you give a little bit of a boost.
That's good.
Now, we've got those folks that are going to be in trouble. They can't pay for that full load of propane. They can't pay for that, entire gas bill, because, my goodness, during the winter months, it just goes out of sight.
Mm-hmm.
And some of those folks end up with disconnect notices. During the winter, for the HEAP Winter Crisis Program, we have to have a disconnect notice. They have to be income eligible, and we have to have that disconnect notice. It's not that we don't care that there's someone who's 60 years of age or older, that we don't care about the health status, but that's not quite the focus during the winter.
Sure.
The focus is keeping people warm.
Yes. What kind of time lapse is there between getting a disconnection notice and getting help through winter crisis?
Depends upon where you live.
Okay.
That's about the best I can offer, because I do know that in the metropolitan areas, it can be difficult. There are literally thousands of people that need help. Not so much out in rural Carroll County.
Mm-hmm.
It's busy, and we make every attempt to get folks in as soon as we possibly can, but oftentimes the delay could be a week or two. The nice thing is, once they make that appointment, if they have a disconnect notice on their gas and or electric bill, that utility company, whether it's AEP, Columbia Gas, Dominion, East Ohio Gas, or one of the others in the state of Ohio, gets a notice that says, these people can't be shut off. We have an appointment. And again, it gives us a delay.
Yes, perfect. Then, and you mentioned that the percent of income payment plan, that's another type of plan. That's not just direct assistance. That's kind of what you were just referring to, correct?
Correct. We don't make a payment with PIP. PIP began back in, again, the early 80s as a result of trying to stop the regulated utilities, the ones that are controlled by the Public Utilities Commission of Ohio. And I was actually involved in getting this whole thing started, because it just aggravated me that the big utility companies were going out in the dead of winter and shutting people off. And no matter how much money we paid, we were lucky if we could get by them a week, maybe 2 weeks. A month was just asking for a whole lot.
Oh, my.
So I agitated statewide. I found myself testifying in Columbus. I gained a whole lot of momentum and a lot of support, which I truly appreciate. And there may be a few listeners out there that's going to say, I was one of them.
Yeah.
We got together, we developed the premise for the percent of income payment plan, which stayed the same for far too long. About 8 years ago, we decided it was time for a change. And we came up with PIP Plus, which is a much better program. It's based on income, and it's a percentage of your monthly income, and you are asked to make that payment on time and in full with your regulated utility Now, a place like Dover Electric, a municipal, or Carroll Electric, which is out in the country, if you will.
Okay.
It sounds like it, but funny as it may seem, the people that live in town all have AEP, and then you get out into the rolling hills of Carroll County, and you have Carroll Electric customers. But those are not regulated utilities. I'm, again, talking about AEP, Columbia Gas, Dominion, East Ohio Gas, and those type of utility companies. We can force the issue of a payment plan that, as long as the payment that is determined to be by the income is paid on time and in full every month, no one can shut them off. And they're going to get a portion of their arrearage.
What does that mean? Okay.
It's going to pay against that.
Wow. Okay. Yes.
So every month, for 24 months, if they stay on this payment and they make their payment, by the end of that 2-year cycle, they can have that arrearage. And I have seen some that were astronomical. I'm talking $6,000-$7,000 arrearages.
And that's erased?
Paid off.
It's paid off.
Paid off.
How is that different? How is that different than a budget plan? When you, like, with your
the budget, you're not going to be getting those payments. You can make your budget payment. You're going to have to pay that year round. There's going to be a couple of catch-up months when they're going to say, well, it was either too low or it was too high.
Right.
That's not the way it is with PIP.
Yes.
PIP is the same amount 12 months of the year.
Nice.
You don't have to worry as long as you budget. This is how much I have to set aside this month to pay on my bill, and you make that payment as expected, then you're rewarded for it.
That's amazing that takes care of it. I'm not great at math, so that's mind-boggling to me that you were able to work something like that out and get it pushed through. That's awesome, Michelle. Okay, we want to make sure
that part was not my doing. It did take the mathematicians to figure it out. Like I said, we had
goodness for them.
Great support.
Yes, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we want to leave with this phone number again, and we're not worried about warming up our houses right now, but certainly cooling them off. If you're having trouble or know of someone having trouble, here's the number to call for Harrison, Carroll, or Tuscarawas counties, 1-855-806-9650. If you live in another county, 1-800-282-0880. Get some home energy assistance. Michelle Lucas from Harkatus, thank you so much for all you do in our community.
Oh, thank you, Susie. I appreciate the opportunity.